Welcome to a new video of BigBrother161, and today we will see everything you need to know about the sculk sensor. This has to be the worst sculpture I ever made. Well, this is the real version. What this component does is that it detects vibrations, movements or changes that occur near it. First, let's see how to obtain it. There are basically two ways, but both of them in some measure require us to visit this biome, which is the Deep Dark, or an ancient city. So let's see first the ancient city, where we can find the sculk sensor in two ways. One is finding them scattered around like this one. So we come here with our Single Touch enchanted tool, the assigned tool for the sculk sensor is the hoe, but you can basically use any other tool that has Silk Touch. And that way we obtain the block. But we can also check this chest and find the sculk sensor as part of the loot. Amongst the loot we can also find the sculk catalyst and take them home. What the sculk catalyst does is that when mobs die near it, sculk blocks spread. But what does happen once in a while? Well, there is a small chance that when the mob actually dies, a sculk sensor is generated. This probability is of 10%. So what we can do is use this catalyst to build a small farm. We just need access to a bunch of mobs dying. So what we can do is take the catalyst and put it in the center of a room, maybe the room is fitted with a stone generator, and use it to generate the sculk blocks. In this case, what we are doing is connecting the sculk room with a tunnel towards a mob spawner. In this case there are zombies, and we just let them get into a room. We wait for them to accumulate, so well, once there are enough of them inside, we proceed to, well, you know. As you can see, with some of the experience, some sculk sensors were generated. So we just use our Silk Touch hoe, or any other tool with Silk Touch, but they will be slower, and this way we can mine them and store them. And of course, the more powerful the mob farm is, the faster these sculk sensors will be generated. But I leave that up to you. So let's watch this small experiment. The sculk sensor may be connected by redstone, and when it detects a small vibration, it will emit a signal. For example, if we flick the lever that is just right aside the sculk sensor, it will emit a power of 14. If we flick a lever 2 blocks away, you can see here emits a power of 12. And if we flick a lever 4 blocks away, you can see the signal is even weaker. The maximum distance at which it can detect vibrations is 8 blocks. And it will emit the lowest signal, 1. And as you can see, in the 9th block, it detects no signal. According to this experiment, it decreases 2 of power redstone signal for each block, but actually it emits 1 power less each half a block of distance. It is also possible not only to connect redstone to the sides, but we can actually connect a redstone dust dot beneath the sculk sensor. And of course it will connect and receive signal. A more interesting feature of the sculk sensor is that it may be connected to a comparator. Well connected directly to redstone, the sensor emits a power level relative to the distance at which it detects vibrations. When a comparator is connected, the nature of its signal is different. In this case, it detects what type of vibrations it is detecting. As you can see, when I walk, the comparator emits a power of 1. But when I jump and land, it detects a power of 5. If I place a block, the power is 12. If I break it, the power is 13. And as you can see, each power level depends on what type of action it is detecting. As you see in this display, we can also place a block between the sensor and the comparator. That way we can hide the entire circuit, but we will see that later. As I previously said, the distance at which the sculk sensor can detect vibrations is 8 blocks. So I've built this sphere-type structure, and that way in a more visual manner we can see the distance at which the sensor detects vibrations. This includes not only horizontal distances, but also the vertical one. And if I walk in all these parts, you can see the sensor can detect the vibrations. One thing we can do is place a sensor all the way down, and see in this platform the small area I can detect when I'm walking. As you can see, the blue area is where the sensor will detect when I'm walking. But in these transparent spaces, it cannot. So if we place the sensor at an appropriate depth, we can limit the area at which the sensor can detect vibrations. And as you maybe know, wool has a muffling effect, where the wool serves a function of blocking the vibrations that in another case will be detected by the sensor. But how does it work exactly? The first effect you can see is that if we take wool, as it is different from any other block, when placed it will emit no vibrations. And also, while approaching a sculk sensor, we can walk on wool and it will not detect us. By the way, this also happens with carpet. And also we can use wool in a way that the vibrations the sensor detects are directional. In this case we have used the wool to block this entire volume that is denoted on blue stained glass. The sensor will be able to detect vibrations that come from any other direction, except the area that is blocked. So if we place wool in this direction, we can also imagine this cone in this direction, and we can place another one here. We can also place wool on the top, and the only vibrations that this sculk sensor will be able to detect are the ones coming from this direction. Now we can move freely over all this area, and the sensor will not detect our walking until we come from the front. Another property about the sculk sensor is that it may not be moved by pistons. Now let's try this experiment to determine some of the properties about the redstone signal emitted by the sensor, other than power level. When the sensor detects some vibrations, it will emit a redstone signal with a determined length. So in this experiment, we will see that it detects the vibration, and let's try to capture the redstone signal while it is moving. So here we can see that the signal is locked on, and now we can count the number of blocks the redstone signal has. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Given that the delay on each of these repeaters is 1 tick, and we can see 20 blocks, this means 20 ticks, or what is the same, 2 seconds. Another property of the sensor is that we can waterlock it, unlike for example slabs, fences, or stairs. You can see here it actually detects vibrations, it sends a redstone signal, but we do not hear it. So the property that waterlocking has is that it muffles the effect of the sculk sensor. So we can have this detecting system right under, muffle it with waterlocking, and have a player walk just over it and not hearing that a redstone signal was actually sent. As you can see, the sculk sensor actually takes the lower parts of the block, so if we waterlock it, water will not spill on the parts underneath, so we can place a redstone dust there. Now, let's review some types of signals that the sculk sensor may be able to detect. Just remember that placing a comparator, taking a signal from the sensor, will emit a power level relative to what type of vibration was detected. Let's see some simple circuits over here. So this is the aerial view of this circuit, which is a vibration identifier. It is not hard to build. What this circuit will do is tell us what power level is related to each type of vibration it detects. Right now, power level 0, because it is not detecting currently a vibration. As we previously saw, walking is related to a power of 1. Shooting a bow is related to a power of 14. An arrow landing relates to a power of 8. Placing a block is a power of 12. Stripping a log is 6. Eating cake, 8. I like eating anything else. Flying a rocket is 7. A splash barrel is also 7. And so, now this circuit has a downside. It detects the signal correctly, but at the moment the signal goes off, all the previous lamps also light up. So the next circuit attempts to make this correction. As you can see, the circuit is a bit more big, but it does correct the previous error. It serves the same function. I just added a redstone piece and 2 comparators, but it does correct the previous error. It also emits a signal during 2 seconds that corresponds to each action. And if you want to see the full list of actions that corresponds to each power level, you can head to the Minecraft wiki. So here, for different actions, a different power level corresponds. That goes from walking, that corresponds to power 1, all the way to, for example, extending pistons or opening containers, that corresponds to a power of 15. Now, this circuit, like the previous one, is one that tells us what type of action the sensor detected and what power level corresponds, as long as it is the only signal it is detecting. So for example, let's head to the Minecraft wiki again, and let's go to what corresponds to power 12. In this example, it will correspond to placing blocks, placing entities, or placing fluids. For example, in this case, it is not possible with redstone to detect which of these 3 actions is being detected, but it allows us to discriminate these 3 from all the rest of them. And for example, we have this third circuit, which in this case will discriminate all signals with power different from 12. Yes, this one is specifically built to detect power 12. It is exactly the same circuit as the previous one, but we eliminated all the signals that did not correspond to power 12. So we place a block, and it is detected. But for example, breaking the block is power 13, and no off signal is detected. Now let's remember that the actions related to power 12 are placing a block, placing a fluid, for example a cauldron, and placing an entity. But almost any other action, for example breaking a block, eating food, is detected by the sensor, but the circuit emits no signal out. So we've built a circuit that specifically discriminates for power 12. And in the case you want any other signal, you just have to place the torch in the appropriate block and take the out signal over there. For example, in this position, it will be power 9. The final circuit I want to show you is one that probably is more compact than the previous one, but it is also able to be regulated towards the power level you want. It's this one over here. We can calibrate this circuit to detect the specific power level you want, like the previous circuit. All you have to do is regulate the amount of contents this chest has. What we need to do is observe this redstone dust over here. So let's make the same example as the previous one and calibrate this circuit to detect power 12. This redstone dust right now has a power of 11, and that's the objective. You have to make this redstone dust one power level below the redstone signal you want to detect. By adding or subtracting items in this container, we can regulate the power of this redstone dust. In this case, right now it is 9, so right now the circuit is calibrated to detect power 10. Right now let's try to detect power 12. You can see the redstone dust is on power 11. Check the Minecraft wiki again. The 3 actions that correspond to power 12 are block placing, entity placing, and fluid placing. So let's do this again. Place a block, place an entity, place fluid. But for example, let's take some actions that correspond to power 11, like opening a door or flicking a lever. Let's flick the lever. We can see the sensor activated. But the redstone signal from the circuit is not out, and opening the door does affect the sensor, but does not emit a redstone signal. For example, let's see power 13, which we have breaking a block, or breaking an entity. So let's destroy the block, no signal. Let's destroy the armor stand, no signal. So here are ways how to integrate the sculk sensor to the circuit. And finally here we have a circuit that allows us to detect specific frequencies. So tell me what else you can come up with. This has been Big Power 161, and remember, I will be watching.